Hello, my name is Jim Nyber, billed as James L. Nyber on my books, and I'm the author of a book called The W.C. Fields Films from McFarlane Publishers. Yes, my name is pronounced Nyber, not Niebauer. Running Wild, which was released in 1927, is one of the better-known W.C. Fields silents, due to its having been released on VHS back during the 1980s as part of Paramount Pictures' 75th anniversary celebration. This beautiful restoration certainly supersedes that, but the fact that it was released on VHS means that some people know it, whereas they aren't real familiar with some of Fields' other silent movies. It was reworked as a talkie called The Man in the Flying Trapeze back in 1935, and William LeBaron, the producer of this movie, would figure prominently in Fields' career later on, being instrumental in his return to Paramount during the sound era. Director Gregory LaCava might be better known for having directed films like My Man Godfrey and Stage Door. He was a friend of Fields and had directed him in a previous movie called So's Your Old Man. The original title of Running Wild is The Timid Soul, and you'll see why. Back when W.C. Fields was enjoying a hipster popularity on college campuses during the late 1960s and early 1970s, it was for his sound films. We could read about his silence, but didn't really get a chance to see any. It was a revelation to finally see just how great he was without dialogue and how well he responded to silent comedy. Fields would wear that clip-on mustache in his silent films, but he would abandon it after he started making talkies. It only appears in his first two sound films. That's a really nice shot, showing the timid soul walking around his room, and his wall is filled with pictures of athletic people, boxers, people like that, people he could never be. Part of the fun of watching early films is seeing long-gone artifacts like this little radio set he's got. Before the days of television, of course, exercise programs had to be on the radio. Very visual humor, of course, for this silent movie. And what's amusing here is the correlation between the athletic person and Fields trying to respond to him. That's Mary Bryan. She would also appear in this film's remake, Man in the Flying Trapeze, in the same role. W.C. Fields was quite fond of her, as she was of him, and she appeared in another Fields silent, Two Flaming Youths, which is unfortunately a lost film. Mary lived to be 96 years old. The way LaCava shoots this, with enough room for the pictures on the wall to be in view, the muscle men, the boxers, and so forth, and correlating that with Fields attempting to exercise. Barnett Raskin plays Junior, and this is his only known movie. He's very effective in this role and quite funny. In some of the publicity for this movie, he's billed as Barney Raskill, R-A-S-K-I-L-L. But in the credits, it's Barnett Raskin, R-A-S-K-I-N. And there's no real indication that he made any other movies but this one. That's Marie Shotwell playing Ma. She had appeared with Fields in Sally of the Sawdust, a movie he did a few years earlier for D.W. Griffith. This was her second to last movie. This correlation between the guy doing the exercises and Fields' response shows what a great physical comedian he already was. He had done some stuff on stage, but for the most part, We know him so well from films in which he uses a lot of dialogue. So the fact that his physical comedy was enough to sustain an entire feature film is something of a revelation to those of us who weren't real familiar with his silent work for many, many years. It's really great that it's becoming more available. We're establishing the family dynamic here with the overbearing second wife, the bratty stepson who's pampered by her, and of course Field's daughter from a previous marriage who is loyal and stands up for him. It's even more amusing to be using a big, overgrown-looking kid to play the stepson, as opposed to somebody like, a smaller child. And in the later movie, Man in the Flying Trapeze, Grady Sutton plays essentially a grown man who's similarly pampered. Everyone and everything is against the Fields character, even the family pet, and this is evoking a certain sympathy. Claude Buchanan is the young man. He's only on record as having appeared in a couple of movies. It's worth pointing out the sharpness and clarity of the image on this restored film. It's especially in the medium shots where we see in the negative space the various things that are building up the scenery. We're lucky to have anything from the silent era. So many films are lost, and when a film like this not only exists, but is restored so beautifully, where the preprint material, the original materials that exist, are in such good condition that they can be restored to this level, that it's really worthy of celebration for film history. Now, this dialogue here establishes that the young man is the son of Field's boss. Field's character has been working for his father for some time without a raise. When W.C. Fields first read this script, he realized there was a lot he could do with the material. He liked playing this sort of character, one who was timid and at odds with the cruel immediate world, but who had at least one person who respected him, who looked up to him. So he feels this dynamic with his daughter is what's holding him together, what's keeping him moving along. The way LaCava does these establishing shots of each room, where he shows a medium shot and we see everything surrounding the characters. That pantomime is really neat. Without any title cards, Fields very obviously asked Mary Bryan, "Are you making that for me?" And she pointed out, "No, it's for the stepson." Now, because this is the one person in his life who looks up to him, he really wants to fulfill her request to buy a new dress. But her performance is quite brilliant, and she realizes that he's not going to be able to do it. And I think he realizes it too. The timid man that Fields plays in this movie has the intentions, but none of the follow through. These gestures that Fields goes through, I mean, touching the rabbit's foot and shifting his pen from one pocket to another, showing the character's nervousness, that's all really brilliant bits of business that Fields would add to the performance. Now, this medium shot once again showing the entire room. Up on the left, there's the picture of a man, and the man is the woman's ex-husband. She keeps her ex-husband's picture in the home that Fields is paying for with his money from the way he works. The vastness of the house, as shown in those shots, also shows that Fields is making enough money to provide a very good home for the family here. Now she's responding to the picture of the ex-husband. It's nice that these establishing scenes are not rushed and they take their time in establishing each character's trait within the narrative so that we understand the family dynamic so well. Another nice shot of another part of the home where LaCava uses a medium shot. The characters are doing all the movement in the center of the frame, and the vastness of the home is surrounding them. Mary seems to be a bit more aggressive here, pulling his hair and slapping him, but he just cries to his mother. This dialogue establishes that this has been a problem of long standing. The comic character often had a serious side so that we could understand the depth of character. That happened a lot with Charlie Chaplin and the pathos he would use in his films. W.C. Fields isn't so much using pathos as he is just showing an element of the character, the layers of the character that where he means well, but he just doesn't have the courage. Mary's angry with him, but at the same time she still loves him and tries to respect him. She understands there's just simply nothing he can do. This is all a very brilliant setup to what comes later in the movie. The tender scene between Fields and Mary Bryan is crashed upon by the second wife who comes along. A little bit with the hat. Fields would do bits with hats throughout his career. This is a funny offbeat variation on it because, of course, Junior threw his hat to the dog so it could be chewed up. He's quite amused with himself. Now this is a wonderful tracking shot where the Fields character is so superstitious it's carefully avoiding stepping on cracks. Now that was for bad luck many, many years ago, and one has to wonder if younger audiences realized that this was considered bad luck. The superstition of not stepping on a crack was almost thwarted by his walking under a ladder, which has an even bigger bad spell. Filming any action during scenes at a busy intersection like this was probably rather challenging for director Gregory LaCava, and it does a nice job of showing the contrast between the cramped, quiet home life that the Fields character has left and being out in the world where there's a lot of hustle bustle in the middle of the city. Shades of Dickens' A Christmas Carol with the Fields character, a timid clerk alone in a large room with an overbearing boss. Even the desk area looks similar to filmed versions of A Christmas Carol. In the later reworking Man on the Flying Trapeze, they allow the Fields character to be a memory expert. He has a really messy desk that he only understands the filing of. And he's a memory expert in that he understands all the clients and their backgrounds and so forth. And he's very, very needed with the company. In a scene later in Man on the Flying Trapeze where he loses his job, they can't get along without him. And in this case, it's a different dynamic completely. Now, this is a beautiful shot with Fields way in the background showing the vastness of the room, which is essentially looks like a storage room, and he's off in the corner all alone. That's J. Moy Bennett playing Johnson. He's appearing in his final film. He only made a few movies. It's interesting how the director conveys what Fields' character is thinking with these visuals. The shot of him, the look on his face, the shot of the picture of Mary. Rather than turn it over to the boss, this very, very important account, he's going to try and do it himself. Now, of course, he's not a sales manager, but he puts himself off as a sales manager, figuring he could maybe generate some commission with this rather bold move for the timid man. You know, in other W.C. Fields movies, he was very unscrupulous, the character he played. Movies like You Can't Cheat an Honest Man or Tilly and Gus, if he needed to generate money, he'd find a crooked way to do it. But in this film, he's that timid soul who is desperately taking a shot at getting the account the right way, and not trying to obtain it through unscrupulous means. Of course, that's some foreshadowing there, a problem waiting to happen, putting his lit cigarette on a bunch of fireworks. See, Fields has probably the skills to be a sales manager, but he doesn't have the experience, and as a result, he's doing so rather ineptly with the man who's supposed to be getting account with this firm, rather impatient at his ineptitude. And now the Fields character has become rather desperate in his situation. And the other fellow, Mr. Johnson, is just getting more and more impatient. Of course, this experienced businessman who's spoken to a lot of sales managers in his time sees right through the W.C. Fields ruse. Now, to punctuate this misunderstanding is this wild visual gag where the firecrackers are going off. We don't have the benefit of sound, which is, would be a big noisy sort of thing for this scene, but we do have the visuals. Now that's funny because the Fields character is trying hard to cover up the huge blunder he made, and he comes up with just that. Now, here's an interesting conflict. They have somebody from whom they need to collect money, and he's a very big, violent, angry sort of a person. And because it was the W.C. Fields character, Elmer Finch's, fault, he's the one that has to go there. Well, they never sent him before because he was just too timid. Well, now he's going to have to do it, and that's going to be rather difficult for somebody that has so little courage. W.C. Fields was, of course, a vaudeville and folly stage performer at first, and juggling was his specialty, but he also did some comedy sketches and routines with the pool table and so forth. But in a film like Running Wild, W.C. Fields is an actor. He's playing a character with some layers, a character with depth, and he's exhibiting that character very, very effectively. It's interesting how the boss's son is so comfortable in the area that he could just hop up on his father's desk and sit on it and not be reprimanded whatsoever. Fields often liked to present the upper classes responding negatively to the lower classes or even the working classes, but it's the working class that usually prevails. A visual argument with a lot of head wagging. It's interesting that he was almost ready to write off this debt because he realizes he should send Fields and he knows that that would be ineffective. But now it appears he wants something to happen. In many W.C. Fields films, there would be a person of society who was interested in his daughter, and even though they didn't care about their own societal situation, the parents always did, and they would always object to the fact that the son, invariably, would be smitten with the daughter of this lower class man. Another visual where Fields is rehearsing what he wants to say to the boss. We can't hear the dialogue, of course, but we can see with the mannerisms that he's preparing himself. Somebody as timid as this timid man would have to do that. Now, with all the courage he can muster, and of course his superstitious good luck things, the contrast between the storeroom in which Fields has his desk way off into the corner and this smartly decorated office is another nice touch by the director. At this point in the movie, and we're about halfway through, the Fields character has latched onto the audience, and we all have a rooting interest in him. We want something to happen where he will somehow become more forceful, where somehow he'll be able to make his way through with some level of courage. It doesn't seem like that's happening, but that's the trajectory of the film, and one of the reasons why it's so brilliant. Here we see how the title card shows the level of voice, the tone of voice. The derisive laughter making the Fields character seem even smaller and less significant. The fact that the director chooses to not show it all in one frame, but to cut away from one man to the next man, laughing, and then Fields just simply laughs with them, just goes along with them. There we have a 3-shot. Of course, this promotion is to go and collect money from the guy that's going to be angry and violent toward him. Okay, that bit with the hat he would do in many of his other films that shows the juggling prowess that W.C. Fields had, and it shows with this character that he now feels a certain strength and a certain courage, and he believes, okay, I've been promoted, I'm going to show them. I'll get that raise. I'll get my daughter the dress. Vaudeville like this was quite common when this movie was being made, and a novelty act like The Hypnotist was very much a part of vaudeville then. Getting audience volunteers is a part of this whole routine, a part of this whole type of vaudeville act that was around back then. There are hypnotists that are still around. Maybe times were a bit more innocent in the 1920s and people were more readily believed things that were going on stage like this. But for the sake of the movie, with his newfound confidence, the Fields character enters the room, and he's ready to take care of things and show his true worth to his company. the shocked response to the Fields character, and all of the courage that he newly found is right out the door. He sees somebody that's not only angry but violent, and he's next. It's fascinating to show a businessman who does owe money, refusing to pay people, and when they go to collect, beating them up. And they fear him so much that they're ready to just sign these off as bad debts. Now the Fields character is right back to where he was, and he's got to figure out a way to get that money and make things happen. So, being superstitious, he relies on a good luck charm that falls upon him. Now, the horseshoe breaking the window is the perfect setup for what needs to happen next, for this trajectory, for this transition. The vaudeville people are up there. They have one person who has volunteered to do hypnosis, but they need one more. Well, in order to escape the people chasing him, the Fields character runs right up on stage, and that man is pulled off, and Fields is taken as a volunteer, and just for his own safety, there he is. Now this is a very nice transition. Okay, the hypnotist is about to get to work, and we're going to see how it affects W.C. Fields, who is quite timid there, and trying to explain his way out of it, but the hypnotist takes over. Now notice, because this is all visual, the gestures are very florid to make them funnier, and when we get a close-up, Fields understands nuance, so he'll smile, and then he'll look serious, and then he'll smile, and then look serious, but he'll respond effectively to what the hypnotist is doing, moving his head, jerking it around, turning it, and once he appears to be under the spell, he's staring straight away. And now they're going to be putting boxing gloves on him for an experiment, which will happen along with this other guy. Now this guy's more of a tough guy, and not timid like the Fields character is, but he's being hypnotized to be more of a patsy, whereas the Fields character is being hypnotized to be more aggressive. And he is also getting boxing gloves. Okay, as the hypnotist addresses the audience, once again, his gestures are essentially telling without titles what he's about to do. And now with a silent film, we can tell with visuals just exactly what he's working on. Now, we'll watch how they convey this here. Okay, the tough guy is supposed to be Little Lord Fauntleroy. And immediately he starts making the prissy gestures of the character, the literary character, and the audience responds favorably. They're amused. So this tough guy is acting all prissy like Little Lord Fauntleroy. And now the timid man who came running up on stage to escape the chase, he is a roaring lion, and he's going to be aggressive and tough. Excellent performance and an excellent evolving of the character here. Fields very slowly and gradually goes up to the point where he just explodes, and all of the aggressions that he's been withholding, all that pent-up antagonism is just bursting out as he pummels the tougher guy who believes himself, is hypnotized to believe himself to be Little Lord Fauntleroy. Fields' character was so aggressive, and that's a great shot there, that cutaway shot to the stage manager, but Fields' character is so aggressive, so many antagonisms have been stored inside of him that he's exploding a bit too much. He's even taking it out on the hypnotist. And because the hypnotist is knocked away, he doesn't have a chance to dehypnotize, if that's a term, the Fields' character. So they try to restrain him, and he's just too tough. Whatever strengths he had and wasn't using, he's using now. Well, any chance to stop him has failed. He's left the stage entrance, still wearing the boxing gloves. That's one of the wonderful little nuances, is that he's going to go about his business and right a few wrongs, and he's not going to take off the boxing gloves because he's looking for a fight whenever he needs to, and he's prepared. This is nice here. He sticks him in a storing closet. Confronting the man who owes money, and without a problem. Now this is a wonderful little comic bit. He pushes on his legs to prop him up, then knocks him down again, repeatedly making it funnier. Of course, that's the businessman with whom the firm Fields works for wants to do business and is very difficult to connect with. Okay, this man is defeated, and he's about to give over the cash. Fields doesn't want to wait for him to count it out. He just takes it, and that's it. Now, this is a nice little bit here. Fields makes the lion proclamation, and the other man is delighted to indicate that he belongs to a lion lodge, and he gets the wrong idea. And now Fields does manage to secure the very difficult contract. It's a nice shot of the businessmen. It's such of a contrast to the messiness of Fields' office that is shown in medium shots when Fields is working. And now this very staid group of stuffy businessmen is having a board meeting and figuring out just what they want to do. Now there's the Fields work area where it's so much messier and disheveled. Fields walks in, now with a spring in his step, but not timid, and he's not taking it from anybody, is he? Now the businessmen were deciding that Fields, among others, were dead weight and needed to be laid off, but that's going to change here. Of course, they think he's drunk. This is not his behavior, and they have to attribute it to something. Now, of course, being a silent movie, we can't hear the dialogue, so when Fields addresses the board, he has to do it all with gestures, tipping his hat on his head there, and using the gestures and the forcefulness and the body language. The titles say, the gist of what he's indicating, but it's the physical performance, the visuals that are so fascinating. And so well done. And of course, now it's the board that has to go, not Fields. That's the dead weight. That little background bit there with one of the bosses twirling his finger by his head as if the guy's crazy. That's a nice little touch that I don't know was in the script or part of the director, or the actor just threw that in, but it worked. Of course, Fields presenting the contract here changes everything. Well, he's going to hang on to that contract. And now, going home to settle a few family matters, that's exactly what the audience wants to see. And now out into the street, he aggressively hops up into his car. That's a beautiful bit there. And away we go. Now, this is really neatly staged. The way he's driving through town. Car chases became kind of evident in Fields' comedies later on. Most notably, quite later, The Bank Dick and Never Give a Sucker an Even Break. And so this is something of a harbinger. But, these tracking shots of the people running along the walk. Defiantly runs in, and completely different than the character that left home earlier today. That shows how good of a juggler Fields is. Even with those boxing gloves on, he flips that dress box up in the air and catches it so beautifully there. He still retains his finesse. Well, of course, Mary's pleased because he bought her a beautiful, expensive dress. And he's not about to take anything from anyone. There were reports in some of the trades that when this scene came on screen at some of the theaters, the exhibitors stated that some of their audience members actually started applauding. They were so taken by Fields being so timid in this movie that when the worm turns and the hypnosis takes effect and he completely explodes with defiance, everything he did, the people would not only laugh, but they'd also applaud. Now, this confrontation is especially amusing because he never wanted that first husband on the wall, and now he's blaming him for even having a wife, having passed away, and leaving his wife available for the Fields character to marry. Now this jumping up and down on the picture and Mary's reaction like wow at the same time and being both shocked and impressed, and the woman being both angry and upset but put in her place, sitting right down in a chair. She looks and she's upset, and at the same time she's like, wow, what's going on here? The Fields character now takes control as the master of the dog. Taking over complete control of his environment. The polar opposite of what he had become. It really is quite an inspiring idea with the screenplay. Of course, we're all waiting for this confrontation. Of course, that title card is a bit of ominous foreshadowing. The performance of this actor playing the stepson continues to be quite good throughout these scenes. He really is very amusing, and it's unfortunate we know so little about him. There's a lot of movement in the frame, and even though director LaCava will also often shoot this medium shot here, where we see all that's going on in the room, now the Fields character is just like the athletes on the wall. He's big, he's fearless, he's mean, and he's ready to fight. Now he's just toying with him, but he looks at his daughter, gets further inspiration, and he realizes what he actually needs to do as the father figure in the household. Of course, the pantomime is for him to take his pants down so he can get an old-fashioned spanking with the strap, and a variation on the line. We don't have to see it on camera, but we realize that Fields got the pants off, and this is how we see what's going on. We don't have the sound, so we can't respond that way. And when the action isn't immediately on camera, we have to see things like this. The commotion is causing the ceiling to cave in, or the floor up there, and the shaking of the walls, the pictures rattling on the walls, and so forth. All of that is very effective, even though we don't have sound. There's the hypnotist from the vaudeville show. Fields got away before he could take the spell off, and now this has to happen because, well, the hypnotist is liable for whatever goes on. It's as if all the pent-up energies that this character had being so timid, everything he suppressed, just totally exploded and came out after the hypnosis. Really an exciting, inspiring sort of character development, making this movie very, very funny. The hypnotist is trying to snap his fingers and bring him out of it, and to no avail. Of course, Mary is believing he joined the Lions, a lodge group. Well, we're back to the original character now. He's done all the damage. He's asserted his independence, his authority actually, and shown his courage. Well, now what's fascinating is that the Fields character, now snapped out of the hypnosis, does not remember all that he's done. He's now the timid man again. And he doesn't understand why he's not getting the same treatment. Why are his clothes messed up? What am I doing with these boxing gloves? Why is the dog afraid of me? He has no memory of having purchased this dress. Of course, he doesn't remember the wonderful things he's done, as indicated in the title card. Now he's looking it over, throwing down the photograph of the husband, the previous husband, and he's pointing to himself saying, "I did that?" And she doesn't understand that hypnosis happened. She believes he just got the gumption. Somehow found it within himself. He's wondering if he's dreaming. Well, now he doesn't know why his wife has fainted on the family love seat there. Perhaps that could be considered a fainting couch. Well, now his wife is contrite. She wanted a take-charge man, just as in the later reworking, the wife exhibits loyalty and acceptance at the end of the movie, and the Fields character shows some level of forgiveness. But here he's still trying to figure out if he's dreaming. Well, now here's his boss coming to congratulate him for having the courage to collect the money. He got a contract signed, and he's going to get commission. Now the check is for $15,000. $15,000 in 1927 would be the equivalent of over $200,000 in the 21st century. So just as one bad thing after another was happening, one good thing after another is happening now. During that brief period where he was hypnotized and asserting himself, he completely turned his life around. Well, of course, the Fields character doesn't know where the contract is. He has it somewhere, but he has no memory of having secured it. Well, there it is. He just didn't know where, but he did have it. Lawrence Reed in the Motion Picture News stated, W.C. Fields has discarded his folly's tricks you might say which were keeping him back, and in this offering he demonstrates he has some different aces up his sleeve. The antics are mostly original, well fortified with chuckles, many of which come with deep in the diaphragm. And Norman Lusk in Picture Play was equally pleased, stating, the best picture of W.C. Fields is found in his latest, Running Wild. The picture has human quality that raises it above the ordinary screen farce of The Worm Who Turns, and Fields is unique in his portrayal of this sort of character. Despite its aesthetic brilliance and its critical reception, Running Wild was still not the moneymaker Paramount hoped it would be. Fields continued to work hard and was appearing in vehicles that were good for his talents and have held up very, very well today, but he still had not quite established himself in films as he had on stage. So Paramount, after this, chose to try him in a comedy team with old Keystone comedian Chester Conklin, whom they had under contract. However, the 3 movies that Fields and Chester Conklin made together are all lost. Running Wild holds up nicely today. Even though it's a blueprint for the later sound film Man in the Flying Trapeze, it stands on its own for the original gags that appear here and not repeated later. It continues to show that W.C. Fields was as great an actor as he was a master comedian. Of course, now Junior is contrite as well. And it's established that he has the authority. Running Wild is the best known of the silent W.C. Fields features, and probably the best existing one. James L. Nyber, thanks for listening.